really excited to have Gretchen here today to present. Actually, this is my first time meeting her in person, but had a couple of phone calls in preparation for this event when we started planning it back in May. She was actually down at the County and City Managers Association conference with Sam and Sam with Mountain Brook and Jeff Downs and Vestavia at the same time. So we have some good city examples of city management in our area, and so I was excited to have Gretchen come and talk to everyone about what she does at Pelham. She previously was in the Air Force from 1983 to 1993 for 10 years, and then spent time up in New York State in various roles, professional city management related consultant positions, and that was about 2 decades. Is that right?
Yes.
And then came back to Pelham in 2017 to become Pelham's first city manager. So she's been there about 7 years as city manager in Pelham. So thanks so much for being here today, Gretchen, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. And my path to city management was a little different than Sam's or Jeff's. Jeff Downs from Vestavia, if you've heard them speak or gotten to know them a little bit. I came from the private sector. I've been in business management, mainly in manufacturing. I worked for Rich Products, they're a $3 billion frozen food manufacturer in Buffalo, and I managed all of their North American and part of their European customer service. So from there, I went to our middle child has some disabilities, and my husband changed careers. He went from being an engineer to being a cop. So he went into his own family business. And we lived in Buffalo, and he got on at Rochester, and we had to move halfway in between. And so I needed to focus my efforts on taking care of our daughter. And I left Rich's, and the president of Rich's asked me to consult. And so he kept kind of finding me all these consulting jobs. And one of them flew me out to Seattle to help with an upstart they had just purchased. I know Mike was talking about how lovely Seattle is. And so I really just spent the next few years of my career just going around and really helping companies, worked with hospitals that were in trouble one way or another. So helping them identify, what was going wrong and how do we work indirectly with usually the CEO and figuring out how we can make it better. I ended up taking a job with 3 of my clients, just short term to, help them kind of fix certain things. So one was a manufacturer, and I ended up becoming executive vice president there, managing product development, sales, marketing, actually everything except for finance. And then I went to work for a nonprofit, and this is an important part, I think, of this little story is an important part of city management. I was executive director of a Christian counseling center in Rochester, New York. And while I was there, I had taken a job in strategic planning with the city that I lived in with their city manager. And it had been bid out. And so the local community college asked me to, put together a proposal. And so I did. And we ended up getting that. And then I somehow I got into working with police departments. I don't know how it happened, but so I started consulting with police chiefs, mainly on reputation. How do we interact and engage with with unions? We don't have unions here, and with our public. And so when the position of assistant city manager came open, the city manager asked me to apply. And he said, "This will be the most rewarding job you've ever had." And I said, "I'm the executive director of a Christian counseling agency. It's pretty rewarding."
We know it's a change, but we think it brings a lot of value to the city. And that's why we want to have these sessions so that people know, if there is a vote, what it actually means and the benefits of it.
Yes. But the last election, it was pretty much the number one topic. Both candidates that made the runoff were for it. So I think most of the city is for professional management.
Right.
It's just doing it the right way. And again, forcing it in and really risking getting it off the wrong foot is, is that what we really want to do?
What is forcing it in mean?
Forcing it in means you all picking the manager.
Yeah.
I don't think you all should be picking the manager. A lot of people don't think you should be picking the manager. How many investigations do we have in this town right now? We have a federal investigation. We have the Amway situation. We have all these issues. So we're going to try to attract the best and brightest city manager to come in and start this from the ground up. With all that going on, that's forcing it. So that's why it's better to start it with the next council.
I mean, I would say.
I even have an expert saying that. I'm already ignoring it.
Well,
Wait.
actually, can I just
Yeah, you can, but then I'm gonna go.
I'd like to speak to the Sam comment, because if that's
Because I talk to Sam every single day. I work with Sam.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't think it's a good idea. So go on and talk about it.
okay. No, I was just going to say that maybe you know more than I do. I mean, then if that's the case. But I spoke to Sam about it, and when I heard him say what he did in the meeting about if I was a city manager, I heard him say it from the role of, if I was an incoming city manager, that situation would make me a little bit uneasy, because I'd be a first-time city manager in a city that's newly changed the structure of government, and there would be a turnover potentially in who I'd be reporting to. So from a job security standpoint, there would be more risk in that job as a candidate coming in than someone who, is coming into a role where there's been a position for, a decade and a consistent. So yes, they're coming in a time of change, and that would be a risk for the candidate. But I don't really gather that Sam's saying, I don't trust the current council and they shouldn't choose the city manager. And because I think those are different considerations.
But Sam is saying that this next city manager, if we have one, will be working with this next council, because it will be a few months afterwards.
Yeah.
Just a few months.
So let that council do it. Now I understand your point, but that's what Sam's saying.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you've heard that from Sam, then I'll talk to him about it, because I haven't had that conversation with Sam. But Sam, in 31 years, has worked with a lot of different voting bodies, because council can change every 4 years. I mean, so even if it doesn't happen in the first year, it could happen over time. Plus, let's say we hold it all over, the vote and everything. Then that means the next council in that 4 years is going to start the same time frame, right? I mean, so they're also going to have to work within the same considerations of having a referendum and choosing somebody. And then they'll still have to do the same thing, but you'll maybe have 2 years instead of one, possibly.
Okay. There's a big difference here you're forgetting, Nick. The next council will have the vote of confidence with the city of Homewood. Right now, when we polled, we had 25% of the city said they do not want this council making major long-term decisions for the city. 25%. So that next council would then have a stamp of validation. That's the difference. And city council, and then that city manager would have the credibility and the stamp of approval to get off on the right foot.
Yeah. Well, I can't say I haven't seen that polling. It's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, can you share it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Because I mean, if it came out at a time when people's garbage hasn't been picked up, which has happened several times over the past 9 months, there probably has been a lot of frustration about that. There's been frustrations about other things which I believe, if we had a city manager, we'll have better information going into decisions and better implementation and communication of things that happen. I mean, so
we're not debating the merits of city manager.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you start tomorrow? I mean, great. I think we're all on board.
Well, and I think
How
that's
do you know the next administration that's voted in is going to be pure driven snow? Or
I guess that's my point is if this council finds a city manager that is good, you're assuming that the person that the search would result in is not going to be acceptable. And my point is you're making a leap there. And so there's really no reason not to go ahead and try to put someone in place. And I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to delegitimize your opinion. It's a valid opinion and it's a valid point of view. My point of view is simply that not having it by starting the search at that point we run a greater risk, in my opinion, than we do of getting a bad city manager in place sometime in 2025 before the election. To me, that's the bigger risk. And as a counselor of the city of Homewood, what I'm tasked with is to do my best, do what's best for the city. And what I think is best for the city is to eliminate or at least minimize the bigger risk of those two risks. And that's my point of view. Now, no one has to agree with me, and it's okay if no one agrees with me. It's okay if the rest of the council doesn't agree with me and they don't want to hire someone. That's fine. But that's my point of view, is that the risk of going months without someone is a bigger deal than making an assumption that who this council hires, if we choose to do so, is going to be a bad city manager. And it's going to be a city manager that cannot work well with the city, and that the city, and by city I mean residents, cannot see that person succeeding in the role.
I understand. My point is the conditions change.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you about that, except for one thing. The things you talked about, the investigations and things like that, we may still be dealing with those. The difference in us hiring at the beginning of 25 and them hiring at the beginning of 26, there are going to be problems going on at any given point because that's the nature of government. What problems they are, maybe that's different and maybe it's not, but that person's going to have to deal with some of those things. And quite frankly, to Nick's point, that's why we want someone that can be in that office full time every day and deal with the city government and the day-to-day operations of the city government and the residents and the businesses in a way that we simply are incapable of doing now. And the sooner we have someone in that role, the sooner we can start making it better.
Sooner we have the right person in that role.
The sooner we have the right person in that role. Completely agree. There's no point in hiring the wrong person, because that just creates more problems. I completely agree.
Right.
This is
that's the point.
Well, no, your point is that you don't think we're going to do a good job.
Well, look at the track record, Alex.
I've never hired a city manager before.
Yeah.
But I understand your point. But what I'm saying is you're making an assumption as to what the result's going to be.
Well, but it's based on a track record.
Okay.
And it's based on the current conditions. It's not just a feeling.
You're entitled to the opinion, Stuart. I understand. I've given you my reasons that I think there's a bigger concern on the other side. Liz, you haven't asked anything.
Is there any way that this council can take an oath, pass a resolution, pledging allegiance to these, ethics or pass?
I believe they did that when they were sworn in. I would imagine.
No, I mean, as far as the next manager, who you're going to hire is going to meet these criteria. And we guarantee it. This is what we're going to do.
So the only thing I would say is I don't want to put a guarantee on it, because there are things like the 10 years that you need to have, and it may be that there's some things that, but I will tell you this. Every counselor that I have talked to about this says they want someone with the training, the experience, that has training as a city manager, has experience as a city manager, not someone who we are training on the job.
Right, but beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
could you publish a list of qualifications that you are committed to using to fulfill?
Yeah, again, with some flexibility in terms of things like, I think that once the referendum passes, I do think that is, I think we've talked about that, and I think that we will continue to do that.
Before the referendum.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it now for a few years, but I'll be happy to do it some more,
But in black and white.
Well, again, I'm happy to do it in black and white, except for the fact that some of these qualifications, in other words, if we've got someone that's been a city manager for 5 years and been very successful but doesn't have that certification, I don't want to be boxed out of that person that everyone thinks is good because they haven't gotten the certification yet.
Okay, well.
But in terms of a professional city manager with experience as a city manager and has training as a city manager, yes, that's what we're talking about. We are not talking about
The graduate degree, member of professional organization.
Exactly. Those sorts of things, I think, is what we're talking about, and not for example, the names that I've heard of Berkeley Squires or Mike Kendrick or J.J. Bishop, those are not, we are looking for someone that is an actual city manager. We are not looking for someone to put in a city manager role and let them see how they do.
Yeah, it would be nice to have some assurance of that.
Sure.
I mean, because
Is that not enough for you?
I mean, we've had
I mean,
another resident asked me like, what might a job description look like? And you can go on ICMA and see their postings too of like, what city manager candidate job descriptions look like.
You know ICMA, but the residents out here wouldn't know how to go look that up.
Yes, that's right. I mean, so
You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying, you're saying they can go look it up. They don't know what ICMA. I don't know. I don't even know what ICMA is.
sorry,
So,
and this,
I'm just saying that's one of the biggest problems I think we have right now. Is we're talking about a session here. I've got the 3 or 4 people. This is the second session. We're not getting communication out there to the residents. Somebody's not. You see what I'm saying? This right here is a great meeting for people to know. It's great.
Yeah.
Appreciate this. But guess what? Nobody out of the 29,000, we have 8 people here. And the time before we had 12 people, I think. We got a big problem in the city with communication.
well, I think.
Don't get me wrong.
I think we can do better with communication, which a city manager will help with. But in
I
default,
got that. But in the meantime,
and that's why, when, in addition to these, we go to the park and talk to people 20 minutes each because you got to meet people where they're at because they're busy. I mean,
they raise cane in here. You can have them in the city. You can open up a city hall meeting and do the same thing. Make it go along. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
We got to be careful because of the law.
I'm not going. What I was going to try to say is, like Sam said, you could have an ordinance that had a city manager in here 2 years ago. You could have done it. The council could have done it 2 years ago. Immediately made that change. But for some reason, we waited 4 years to do this. Why not the first year? All of a sudden, we're in the last 3 years. Did the council decide we're a failure? What's happened? Something's happened.
I mean,
Wait,
honestly,
I don't mean a failure.
Yeah,
I don't mean it as a failure.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this now. We're looking at it,
I just want to be clear that
not a failure.
we're looking to improve. That
That's
doesn't mean that things are bad. But what I will say is we have been working for those 3 years. We've done a lot of stuff.
But we could have got a city manager.
We could have. What we wanted to do is to find, again, you've got multiple options. We wanted to find the one that fit Homewood the best. We didn't want to rush into it. We wanted to figure it out.
No problem.
And that's what we've done. And we've done it with, quite frankly, a lot of, to your point, not necessarily well attended, but we've had the ad hoc committee had multiple public input sessions. We had open meetings in here almost monthly, with the exception of a couple of months. We had people attend those. We had discussions about things. We've had it on the committee agenda for a while. Patrick did research at the beginning of the term before he handed it off to us. We've interviewed other cities, other city managers. We've looked at ways that they've done it. We've tried to get information so that we went about it the right way, and then go through the statutory process, which takes time as well. But to your point, yes, we could have done that, but we were trying to make sure, and I think we have made sure that we are getting what the model that fits best for Homewood. Then once we get past that, we've got to get to to Stuart's point, finding the right person.
What is our city administrator do now?
We don't have a city administrator.
So JJ, what's
His title is
position?
Chief of Staff of the Mayor.
And what does he do?
He works with the mayor. He works for the mayor.
And
He works for the mayor. He is the mayor's chief of staff. So he handles a lot of things in terms of communications between the mayor and various groups and things like that. But he does not.
He doesn't do staff meetings. And stuff
No,
like that.
he is not. He is not a city administrator in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Thank you.
If that's what you're asking.
Yeah. No, that's what. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
We do not have a city administrator in the way that Hoover has one or Birmingham
I
has
was wondering
one.
if nobody does a staff meeting then with the department heads.
The mayor does those.
So I got it.
Does those. JJ attends those and has been a part of those, but in terms of being a formal city administrator, no,
Okay.
there
No,
is no one.
I'm wrong because I thought maybe he got the title city administrator. I don't know.
He did not.
Okay, so
He's just
but
the
I was
chief
going
of
to
staff.
say, but like I was just going back to what Sam says. We could have made a move for this temporarily while we go through these forms and had somebody already in here handling this, right? But
I mean,
the time change. Time flies.
I mean, and I guess kind of too. I mean, the structure we're in, the mayor made the guidance council to study it, not to move forward with it. So that's the process that was. We followed the process that
Okay.
the mayor, referenced, and so yes, I mean, it's taken time, but here we are, and
Well, I still, I like everything. The movements were fine, but it's very interesting about if we do lose the city manager, that we have nobody. We got to bring somebody from below to run the city. That to me is a flaw.
I think that that's something where obviously, I mean, that needs to be something that is addressed, like the contingency and naming. What position.
I think you have to have two. To be honest,
If it's
the way you
there
if
has
it's
to be
president's
someone-
not,
City-
vice
I'm talking about
president
a
becomes in
manager
charge,
and a
or
assistant.
secretary of
you
state.
need to have that already.
I
Figure it
don't
out.
disagree with you at all. I think that
For that to
there
work.
has to be someone designated because
Yeah, that's
a
right.
city manager can't
They
be.
can leave.
They got to take vacation, right?
No, she might want to go to work.
Sure.
She might want to come.
Absolutely. But
So one of the things that ICMA has, and it's a great program that a lot of other states take advantage of, they have a whole retired city manager group, and they continue with their profession. And what they'll do is they'll go in and help out cities in between times. So that a lot of cities